From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Haven't talked to you in a little bit. Took Thanksgiving week off for a little break. And then I intended to come back the week after that, but I wound up with a little man flu, as they call it. Just a little cold, maybe a slight fever. Got over it in a couple days. But I took advantage of that. And I felt miserable and felt sorry for myself for a little while. Every once in a while, you got to do that. So yeah, we haven't spoken in a little while, and there's so much going on. I will not pressure myself to feel compelled to talk about every single issue that happened over the last 2-3 weeks here. We'll get to what we can. I got to tell you, for part of that time, maybe it was the misery of man flu. But for a while there, I was just sort of beside myself. Like, what is this world even anymore? I don't even recognize it. I'm sure you have those feelings. We all do. I don't know how often you feel them or to what depths those feelings go for you. But man, I had a stretch of, 3 or 4 days there where I was just ready to, I shouldn't have started that sentence because I wasn't ready to do anything. I wasn't ready to give up. I wasn't ready to do anything drastic. I feel I have to explain to people sometimes that I'm never going to snap like the CEO shooter. I share much of the same views as Mangione, the CEO shooter, and his apparent hero, the Unabomber, who he quoted at length. Have you ever read the Unabomber's manifesto? Now, there again, I feel I have to remind people, I'm never, ever going to snap. That's not going to happen. I haven't got a violent bone in my body. I can't even kill flies. So that's never going to happen. I don't have any fear about that. And that's why I can say openly that Kaczynski, the Unabomber, made a lot of sense. His manifesto had a lot of really, really good points. I haven't read it in many years, but I remember reading it, and I remember thinking, yeah, he's pretty much right about most of this stuff. Where he's wrong is deciding to kill people about it. That's where they lose me. Anyway, I had a stretch of feeling very disappointed and dejected about this country we live in, feeling more and more like the proverbial Martian who comes down and tries to understand this alien world. That's how I've been feeling recently. The nominees, oh my God, the whole process we're going through now with the Orange Menace and his naming of his cabinet, this bizarro cabinet. I know last time we spoke, I promised we'd spend some time on that, and we will, but there's no big hurry. We'll get to it as the confirmations begin in the Senate hearings. And the only thing to say now is it really is just as bad and or much, much worse than any of us predicted. The one thing I need to sort of hammer home every week is don't let yourself be put to sleep by these commentators and these mainstream media folks who want to tell you, let's just wait and see how he does. We don't really know. It might be okay. Just, No, none of that. All of the warnings about fascism and autocracy and plutocracy and oligarchy are all absolutely, and fascism, of course, the granddaddy of them all, of all the little isms and terms we use. All of those warnings are every bit as important as they ever were and more so. So, no, we can't just relax. We can't just sit back. At the same time, we can't cower in fear. We have to stand up and fight. Not sit back and wait and watch. No. We have to keep up as hard as it is and as dejected as we feel. We have to keep up on the news. We have to know what's going. We have to know how to protect ourselves. We have to support groups like the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center, if I got their name right. I think so. There are great people out there doing great work, and we have to support them, and we have to do our part each of us, each and every one of us. And it's if you think you can just sit back and watch, or even worse, just completely turn it off, do nothing, then, I guess you have that right. But I kind of wish you'd stay in the fight with us. It takes everybody. Every little conversation around the kitchen table with your friends, family, and neighbors, if you can have any sort of impact at all, this is a fight for everybody. And we're not, I guess we probably won't get into it today. I'm sure we won't really. But, the big names, the RFK and the Tulsi Gabbard and the Pete Hegseth and the Kash Patel at FBI, these are truly the bizarro cabinet. They're there to just break the system. And you and I have spoken many times about how, the system needs breaking. But in this case, it's the bad guys doing the breaking, and they're going to install their little fascist, dictatorial government in place of the flawed government we already have. So we have to keep an eye on that. The senators who have taken a central role here, of course, the U.S. Senate, advise and consent according to the Constitution, which, of course, the Orange Menace and his minions care nothing about. But they still have that constitutional duty to advise and consent. And most of them, so far, are showing great weakness. So it's sad that we have to rely on Republican senators. None of these guys, the bad ones, the really big ones that I mentioned, they're not going to get any Democratic votes. There are no Mansions or Cinemas left in the Democratic caucus in the Senate. So I don't expect the very controversial ones, especially like Hegseth and RFK, and they're not going to get any Democratic yay votes. So we have to count on the Republicans. We have to count on 3 or 4 Republicans to do the right thing, and that's a hard thing to do, to count on that. So we're watching that. Boy, these last couple of weeks, the Orange Menace, if you didn't see the interview on Meet the Press, wow. Just lie after lie after lie. I don't know why they put him on the air. I don't know why they interview him. I don't know what purpose it serves, actually. If I could wave my wand, everybody would shun him. All people of any sort of honor, anybody with a spine, anybody who loves truth and basic decency, would just literally shun him. Cover him like I've said before. You cover him like you cover a hurricane, like you cover a natural disaster. You warn people about him. You help people understand the issues and what they can do. But to treat him as though he's a normal person, a normal presidential candidate, and now president-elect, and to just let him tell lie after lie after lie, to platform him like that, I don't understand what they're doing. I also didn't understand the weasel Macron in France, who did all of his bizarre little macho contestant handshakes with him. Have you seen these two? When they shake each other's hands, it's this really ridiculous, embarrassing little macho contest they have on who can grip harder and who can pull who in which direction. It's all such, we're living in a bizarro world, and we can't accept it as normal. We have to acknowledge that it is as bizarre as it is, okay? Right now. That's all I'm asking of you. Please don't be lulled, hypnotized, convinced, cajoled into thinking that any of this is anywhere near normal. Please. It's, the old emperor with no clothes kind of a thing. Don't let them do that to you. You got to see this stuff for what it is. You have to call it out at the very least. At some point, we've got to get some resistance organized. We've got to literally hit the streets. We got to start with some civil disobedience, something. We have to have some. We can't just sit around and wait to vote again in 2 years. We have to have an active democracy. We can't just sit and watch like it's a TV show, like it's a reality show. Because this is serious stuff. No, I don't want you to cower under your pillow like I did for a couple of days. No, I don't want any of us to do that. I don't want us to be afraid and fearful and cower. I want us to stand up and see the truth and tell the truth. To turn our back and pretend we don't see it is participating in the lie. And then doing nothing is participating in the evil. You know, the old silence is violence thing. Yeah, okay, I know it sounds cliche, but there's nothing more true. So we just got to face it for what it is. So yeah, the whole post-election transition period here has been really, really, I was going to say disappointing, but it's not like we didn't expect this. And like I said before, it's every bit as bad as any of us warned. Every bit as bad, and in many ways worse. And there's, I don't know what I can do about the Orange Menace and his thugs here, but at least I can, you know, what everybody always says, the old cliche, you can't control other people, but you can control your own reaction. Well, my reaction is there should be some outrage here. There should be some indignation. There should be some calling out from people at all levels, from little folks like you and me who only have our voices and our bodies to walk on the street. The issue of preemptive pardons came up in the news. I don't know if anything more is going to come of that. I think it probably won't happen. The issue there, of course, if you hadn't heard, was there's quite a lot of discussion, according to reporters' notebooks, not involving the president himself, but upper staff having very serious discussions about whether or not Joe Biden should grant preemptive pardons to all the people who have been threatened by the Orange Menace. And the threats are clear. You don't have to read between any lines. He's been saying it out loud literally for years about how he wants to go after certain people, especially in the Biden administration and especially the January 6th committee. He thinks they should be in jail. He just said it in that ridiculous Meet the Press interview. And so a lot of people saw that as the reason that Joe Biden changed his mind and decided to give his son Hunter that pardon. Now, you and I weren't together for us to talk about that. My basic line on the pardon thing is, well, of course he did the right thing. And he didn't lie. He said for the longest time that he wouldn't do it. And he wasn't lying. That was his intention. That he was telling the truth. Will you pardon him? No, I won't. But then he got drummed out of the nomination of the position as nominee of the party. He got drummed out of that. Kamala Harris loses the election. The Orange Menace is now president-elect. And all of these threats. He changed his mind. I don't blame him. Because they've just been blatant about their threats. That they were going to go after Hunter Biden for whatever they could invent. And that's what they were doing. That's what Rudy Giuliani and Senator Ron Johnson and those two thugs they hired running around Ukraine for a couple of years there trying to find any dirt, and they couldn't find any, so they had to try to convince people just say there's dirt on the Bidens. We'll do the rest. That's what the whole first impeachment was about. So it's not like none of this is theoretical. This is what they're doing. They're perfectly happy to invent charges. And they certainly would have done that with Hunter Biden and who knows who else. So, no, the pardoning of Hunter Biden was absolutely, completely, 100% justified. No doubt in my mind at all. So then, of course, the conversation becomes, well, we should do that with everybody then. Because he wants to put Adam Schiff in jail, and he wants to put Liz Cheney in jail. He wants to put Adam Kinzinger in jail. He wants to put everybody in jail. The entire committee should be behind bars. He just said it last weekend. Live on television. So this is the current debate. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't have an opinion on it. It's really hard to say, because you'd have to give a blanket pardon to just about everybody. You know, I'd have to apply for a pardon. And I've said this before, and I'm sure you thought I was just joking, and it still sounds like a joke, but people like me, just guys with podcasts, are going to have to watch our backs, quite literally. Because Kash Patel, who's going to be the head of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, who's going to be the Attorney General, and the Orange Menace, they want retribution and they want people behind bars. They're political opponents, they're opponents in the media, anybody. So, Preemptive pardons, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. The minds better than mine can figure that out. I don't know. All I know is that for the last couple of weeks here, this upside down world, this bizarro world we're in, has got me just beyond disappointed in mostly in our reaction to it. We just, where's the outrage? Oh, but we can't. We don't have the emotional fortitude to just be outraged all the time. Okay, all right, I get it. Can you find a way? Like I said before, to at least acknowledge the truth in front of our eyes. That's all I'm asking. We can't let go of the truth in front of our noses. That's really all I'm asking. We have to stay vigilant. We have to at least acknowledge and voice the truth. And it's all just so crazy right now. Which brings me now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, just a couple of minutes. I got to talk about the CEO murder thing. Because again, it's all about the reaction. It's all about how we're reacting. I don't care so much about the story itself. It's the OJ effect, right? It's not so much about the story itself. It's about how we react to the story. At the time with OJ, it's about how the police behave, and it's about racism. It's about black versus white, and of course all the salacious and prurient elements to the story. But that's what was interesting, the reaction. And that's what I find interesting about this story is the reaction to it. Because the reaction was amazing. I myself, I'll tell you, when I heard the news, I didn't have one whit of empathy or sympathy for the guy who got shot. Now, that's not something you can just decide about. That comes straight from your gut. And for a lot of people, straight from their gut was, yeah, fine. This CEO, more than any other, because United Healthcare is the biggest of them all, so he represents a world where thousands of people are dying every single day because of the dollar in his pocket. And he knows it. And everybody in the industry knows it, and every other CEO knows it. And so Mangione, the shooter, considered this an act of war. And when most of us heard the news, a lot of us heard the news, we understood that immediately. And as I'm watching the reactions, I'm actually heartened a little bit. I think, okay, I don't have to condone it. I know what's happening in my gut. And it was pretty clear what's happening immediately. The gut reaction of half the nation was, yeah, I get it. How many people would actually do what Mangione did? Nobody. Maybe one or other two people out of 330 million people. I don't know. I wouldn't. In the first day, more than 90,000 people mocked an online tribute to the victim of this shooting. United Healthcare's Facebook post had a little tribute to the guy. And in the first 24 hours, 90,000 people mocked it. They put on a little laughing emoji or something. And corporate media was just disgusting. And I thought, when is this going to shift? And it didn't. It went on for days. And it was just so predictable, so corporate, just obsessed with the true crime angle of the story, pretty much ignoring until they didn't have any choice anymore. After 24, 36, 48 hours, they had to acknowledge that people were kind of okay with this. But up until then, it was all about, the manhunt. And, the shooter becomes an instant folk hero, and we're all rooting for him to get away clean. And the media finally had to acknowledge, yeah, that's happening too. But when they did, of course, it's so dark, so horrible that people think this. Hey, you know what? It is what it is. But the attention, the reward right away goes up to $50,000, $60,000. The people, the commentators getting really like holier than thou about, if you have any sympathy at all for this killer and you think that this is in any way justified, you better check yourself. That's not how I was raised. Come on, get over yourself. Because those very same people, many of them, have absolutely zero understanding or zero empathy for the hundreds and thousands of preventable and tragic deaths every single day on this earth. There are people murdered every day. New York City ranges between like 300 and 400 murders a year, so about one a day. And which one do we hear about? Well, this guy, because he's rich. And there's a $60,000 reward and a nationwide manhunt because he's rich. Why? I think it was the very next day, there was some guy went off, had a horrible mental health episode, went off on a stabbing spree and killed 3 people and got almost no news. You had to go find that. No follow-ups, no nothing, no crocodile tears for the victims. Like, oh, that's too bad. Oh, that's another story. But we're just obsessed with the true crime aspect of this Brian Thompson killing. Again, I feel like I'm the Martian trying to understand an alien culture. It's like, what is wrong with you people? The same people with crocodile tears and the moralizing and the lecturing about how, this can't be justified. You don't give a shit about poverty-driven crime and murder that happens every day. Oh, well, there's nothing I can do. No, that's exactly my point. There is something you can do. These are things that are preventable. People die every day, and they really should and can be called murder. Because systemically, they're 100% preventable. You're doing, and when I say you, I'm talking about the people here who were lecturing me, or us. You're doing nothing about it. You're giving no attention to it, media. People die every day from poverty. They die every day of hunger. They die every day for lack of health insurance. They die every day of poor infrastructure that's toppled by so-called natural disasters. You and I have talked about that quite a lot. Who dies in natural disasters? Poor people. These are all structural. These are all part of a system that all of us benefit from. Some of us to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars for our little CEO contract. All preventable deaths. All tragic deaths. Why is this one different for you? The people who die every day around this country and around the world. Why do you have this selective outrage for this one CEO just because he's rich? What is wrong with you? You got Stockholm Syndrome? You care about him and you ignore all the others every single day? Class war has victims. This is not a cold war. This is a hot war, people. Class war has victims, and people are dying every single damn day. So Mangione decides to shoot a CEO because he considers this an act of war. Would I do it? No. Is there certain logic to it? Of course there is. I mean, I'm not going to recommend this strategy. I think it's pretty bad. What are we going to do? Just start shooting everybody? Should we shoot the owner of the Mets for paying Juan Soto $765 million? That was another story that got my Martian brain just spinning. Like, what in the world, aliens, are you doing? I'm looking at your world here. I'm looking at the inequality. I'm looking at the people who are hungry and poverty and people in need and don't have health insurance. And this guy you're going to pay $765 million to? I'm sure Juan Soto was a nice guy. I got nothing against Juan Soto. He's a great baseball player. By all accounts, a very nice guy. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is we live in a system that gives this guy $765 million and then denies other people life-saving cancer treatment. What kind of a world is this? You read Kaczynski's manifesto, you read Mangione's manifesto, all makes pretty good damn sense. And yeah, he published a couple little things here, little essays. He considered this an act of war. It makes total sense. Again, I wouldn't do it because it's inherently wrong morally, but even if you don't quite buy that, it's inherently inefficient and it won't work. So there are practical reasons not to do it too. But those were his reasons. And I understand them. And speaking of war, by my eyeballs, you don't seem to care much about war otherwise. Victims of war, Israel, just today, just in the last day, attacks in northern and central Gaza killed dozens of people, including women and children. Earlier today, Israeli forces bombed a residential building in Gaza where displaced families were taking shelter, killing at least 20 people. That happened just today. It happens every damn day. Happens every day. Is there nationwide obsession about this? So, yeah, your selective outrage is just amazing to me. How one life can mean something and a thousand other lives mean nothing. I don't understand you. And how you can absolutely condemn and deride this madman, this radical, who shoots one person, and then you got nothing to say about Netanyahu, who kills 50,000 people in one swipe and destroys an entire nation. You didn't seem to care during the whole war on terror that lasted for 25, 30 years. You didn't seem to care during Vietnam. You didn't seem to care during World War II. We talk about the Revolutionary War that started this country, and we think, oh, those guys, they were heroes. Yeah, get out those guns and shoot those redcoats. So it's not shooting and killing that you object to. What is it then that you object to? Oh, well, you can't kill rich people. Yeah, so Mangione just used the logic of war, which you use all the time. There's ethical and moral killing all the time. And the very same people who want to tar and feather the CEO shooter are the same people who, at a clip of 58% of MAGA Republicans, believe that political violence is often justified. 58% of MAGA Republicans believe that political violence is justified. So all I'm saying is let's have some perspective. Let's just have some perspective. I don't condone the violence. I don't advocate for the violence. Again, it's immoral, but mostly it's inefficient. It'll never work. It's not the way we want to go. So I don't condone violence, but I do condone revolution. And we'll pick this up another time because I'm running out of time here. But let's be clear. The kind of change we need, big structural change, doesn't happen by voting every 2 or 4 years. It doesn't happen by asking politely. It doesn't happen incrementally. It happens through revolution. We've seen it over the years in the entire area of social justice, of civil rights, whether it's LGBTQ or people of color or women. All advances have happened because of revolution. And that is loud protesting on the streets. That is disruption. That is civil disobedience. I am not for violence. I am all for disruption. Disruption and civil disobedience have a long record of success in this country. In fact, it's the only way anything big has ever really been accomplished. So murder, no. Breaking laws? Yeah. Yeah. And if the FCC wants to come and get me, then, the new bizarro nominees of the Orange Menace can come and get me. But I think advocating for civil disobedience is definitely a hill I will die on. All right. Well, the time is up for today. Talk to you again next week. And, of course, over the weekend with Charles Purcell Presents. I'm not sure what's happening on that program yet. We'll figure it out. But this is The Log, and it's heard right here on this platform and any other of your favorite podcast platforms. Also can be heard on our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Contact me, Charles Purcell at Gmail. Follow on Facebook. Peter Donalds wrote and performed the theme song. All right, there it is. Love you.